What is up, guys? Ivan here with getivan.com, and I'd like to welcome you to this video on why SEO work is a luxury. Could also be titled Why SEO Implementation is a Luxury. So I'm going to talk about several forms of implementation, and then I'm going to finish this video off with the kind of implementation that I do nowadays and why I think it would be beneficial for your business. So the first form of implementation is the most generic form. Over 90% is probably focused on this kind of implementation, and that's really just based on sales. So that's just come one, come all, step right up. SEO services available. I very much think of it as the snake oil type salesman, the traveling trader who sells the magic beans or whatever, and you've got this perceived amazing benefit, and it's so easy, but it just takes time, you know. And so in my experiences with dozens and dozens and dozens of clients over the years, and even more, probably hundreds of potential clients, it's really difficult for the average person, the average business owner, to be okay with, here, I'm going to pay this money every month, and then in 6 months to a year, I'm going to see results. I would say that probably the average person, they understand the concept, but they want to see they want to see results within 1 or 2 months, even though they completely understand how it works, right? So there's a bit of a disparity in a catch-22 between, what's going on with clients versus what's going on with implementation people. But that being said, a huge portion of the industry is fraud. And it's not that their understanding of the concepts of SEO are poor. It's often, I think, that their understanding of the quality that needs to go into it is so poor. And we'll talk about that in a second here. That's why in other documentation on my site, I talk about the proprietary nature of the industry you're involved in and the niche. And that's not something that you can fake. It's something that whoever's working on the asset, they have to learn a lot about, in order to be really successful. And so obviously the sales side of SEO doesn't work. Maybe a little bit of it has some value, but in the long run, the client loses money. The SEO implementation person probably isn't making very much per month to even justify a large investment of time, which is a part of the disparity in the catch-22. But it still makes up the majority of the industry, and why I would speculate, and why I think there's a lot of businesses who have bad experiences, especially overseas. Moving forward from there, let's talk about a few, because there's a lot of facets and dynamics to that, but let's talk about a few different archetypes that I think are pretty successful, among the most successful in SEO implementation. First, you got lead generation. Then you've got high retainer SEO implementation. Then you've got specialized niche implementers. And then finally, you've got information and consultation. Okay, so with lead generation, the catch there is the SEO person owns the asset. And they have to put in a lot of work to build that brand and to build that asset. And they have to have specialized infrastructure that's going to then relay, whether it's calls or whether it's inquiries from a form or whatever, to either an exclusive business partner or rolling to different business partners that are associated with the asset. And so complex infrastructure, even if you can see the asset, you don't necessarily know how good the leads are, even though they may be pre-qualified, right? And you don't own the asset. As the client, you don't own the asset. And so the cost can vary. It depends on your niche, of course, wildly. But you could have a good experience. You could have a good asset with good experience in terms of that lead generation, or you could be spending just as much as you are throwing away your money with the bad implementer, or more. And so there's some risks involved in lead generation, even though I would say that's one of the better implementation models out there. Okay. The second one, high retainer, that one, as it implies, SEO implementation guy says, I'm not going to work with a business that's not at least paying me at least $4,000 a month or something like that. So that immediately just dramatically reduces the number of industries that he's willing to work with. And that cuts out 90% of the businesses that are out there. And even if you're one of those businesses, it's very expensive. It's a full salary. And so you have to justify a full salary before without seeing results for 6 months to a year. And that's a pretty big amount of trust. Who's to say that that guy isn't scamming you or conning you? And even if it works, it has to multiply what you're paying the guy. And so it's a very specialized model, and it works for some industries, but it is very specialized and doesn't work for most. The third one would be someone who specializes on a particular niche and who is very focused on that one niche. So they have a high amount of proprietary business understanding, which is really what you need, really valuable. And so they may be able to drive the cost down because they have more specific processes for working in that space. And some of the challenges there can be similar to the other challenges that I've mentioned. But one of the main concerns is, how do you know if someone's specialized? And is it likely that you're going to find a specialist for your industry? You might find it for something really common like pest control or plumbing or electricians or something like that. But those are also going to be the more likely to be conned. And so there are some concerns and issues with even the best models. Some of those models are some of the best. And then the final one is information and consultation. And this is the one that I have resorted to after years of dabbling in all kinds of things. And the reason is because it's the cheapest form of providing value to a client in terms of SEO for the client, right? But it's a very high profit margin for SEO persons in that, information is extremely scalable. Customer service is extremely scalable. And it's applicable to all kinds of businesses. So the amount of business that I'm able to do is significantly greater. I have a lot more practice. I'm able to acquire a lot more practice, a lot more experience. And for the customer, they're able to get sort of two sides of it. Number one, the knowledge and the transparency that they're able to acquire will empower them to be better at hiring in the future if they decide they do want to hire someone to implement. And number two, if they do decide to hire someone to implement, they can just bring them onto their staff rather than having them as some foreign external thing. They can just hire someone on their staff, or send that to someone who's already on their staff to go through those materials and to take advantage of that consultancy and to implement. Because what I've found over the years is that the proprietary aspect of SEO is business knowledge. It's not the majority of everything else is generic to every business. But the one thing that an SEO implementation expert does not immediately have grasp of is a deep and an influential understanding of the niche or the industry that they're involved with. When you have that, the rest of it is super easy. It's not really anything special. And so that is why I focus on this now, because it's highly profitable for both parties. So if you want to learn more about my package and see what I have to offer there, please check out the link below this video. And thank you for watching, and I certainly wish you well in figuring all this out. Thanks. Bye-bye.